These are the most unpopular, the least downloaded, and the most unloved games currently on PlayStation Plus. But why? Are they just old? Do they suck? Or are they just forgotten? I decided to find out for myself. I'm seeking out the games that find themselves at the bottom of the PlayStation Plus catalogue's most downloaded to see for myself if these games are hidden gems or toxic waste. But with an ever-shifting catalogue of over 400 games, that's no easy task. So, all that's left for us to do is get stuck in. In this episode, we're dipping our toes into the grim dark world of Warhammer to slaughter our way through the forces of chaos, utilising a mix of powerful ranged attacks and hack and slash elements, all in the name of the Emperor. Yes, it's Warhammer 40k's slightly less cool older brother, the Warhammer Fantasy Universe, as we hit up the next game lingering around the least playing games on PlayStation Plus, Warhammer Vermintide 2. Similar to Zombie Army 4 Dead War, the first game we played in this series, Warhammer Vermintide 2 is a first-person co-op action game. Developed and published by Fat Shark, Vermintide 2 released to Windows, Xbox and Game Pass in early 2018, came to PlayStation 4 in late 2018, saw an Xbox Series X and S release in late 2020, and joined the PlayStation Plus catalogue in June of 2020 as an extra title alongside some other Warhammer games which, spoiler alert, we'll get to in the not too distant future. The base game features 13 campaign missions, 15 career paths for characters, and plenty of interesting ways to shake up the base co-op shooter gameplay. The version you'll get with PlayStation Plus includes some elements from season content and DLC, expanding the range of content further. Despite hailing from the current home of Games Workshop, I actually passed their head office in Warhammer World on my daily commute until recently. I've never quite found that Warhammer itch. In Year 7, I joined our Warhammer club at school and had our school library start stocking the White Dwarf magazine, but was ultimately put off the hobby at my local Games Workshop. Needless to say, I was actually quite excited to get stuck into the archetype grimdark setting. But before we get stuck into Vermintide 2, let me take a moment to talk to you about today's sponsor. Me! No, really, it is. I've been super lucky to have this channel and make my videos, and I really enjoy getting to share my love of video games and discovery of new games with you, my audience. It's probably unsurprising, but a whopping 97% of the people watching these aren't subscribed. So, as you stop by, if you enjoyed the video, let me know by either liking the video, leaving a comment, or if you really want to, subscribe. And hell, you know what? Even if you don't like the video, leave a comment and let me know why. Maybe I'll learn a thing or two and wow you the next time. With all of that out of the way, let's see what Vermintide 2's opening experience is like. This is Act 1. And honestly, the first impression isn't great. Look, when we boot up the game for the first time, we're immediately met with a 9-screen pop-up advertising additional mission packs and DLC. Devs, I get that we want players to be buying DLC, but at the very least, let's at least wait until the second time the game is booted up. I've not even finished installing your game and you're already trying to sell me more content. It's a really common thing to see these days, and honestly, before making these videos, I wouldn't have even given it a second thought before closing the screen. But if this is the first thing I see when I start up your game, it immediately tells me that your first priority is to get money out of me, and to be honest, that's going to be in the back of my mind now for every design decision that's ever made within the game. Closing these screens, we're given a choice of playing online or offline. Online will allow us to matchmake with friends and randoms, offline will not, but allows the game to be played without an internet connection. Progress from online can transfer to offline, but not the other way around. We're after the full experience, so it's a no-brainer to go for online. Playing online meant that up to 3 other players could join my game for some co-op fun, and kind of surprisingly, despite only ever seeing around 12 to 15 people in lobbies, most of my games did actually have at least one person joining, which was nice. Frequently though, a player would join fairly close to the end of a level, for which I always felt bad for wasting their time. It was that, or a high level player would join and just blaze ahead, killing everything and completing all the objectives, while me, bots, or other players at my level would just struggle to keep up without getting left behind to be picked off by a special enemy and killed. Despite the seemingly low population of games and players, I was pleasantly surprised at how frequently I would end up playing with other players. Even if, without a high level player absolutely demolishing everything, it didn't actually feel that different playing with other players versus the well-programmed bots who managed to hold their own just as well. As we're still waiting for the game to install though, our only option is to play through the prologue. It serves as a tutorial too, so we get stuck in and are treated to a short cinematic that provides a bit of context to the world and where the story picks up from.
There can be no victory. The darkness always returns. Legends tell that these words were spoken by Sigmar, the first emperor. Some believe he had a vision of what was to come. But Sigmar uttered truth, not prophecy. The darkness always returns. Always. When the Skaven conquered Ubersreich, the flame of defiance guttered. The Reichland should have been lost, but heroes arose, and the Vermintide was repelled. Desperate for revenge, the Ratmen struck a pact with the barbarians of the Chaos Wastes, the worshippers of the Dark Gods. Once again, the Reichland stands upon the brink. Once again, heroes are needed. And yet, in the very hour of victory, the saviors of Ubersreich were taken, seized by the treacherous foe. With every dawn, hope fades. After all, if the greatest can fall into darkness, what chance can there be for those who remain?
We awaken imprisoned in a Skaven cage, travelling along a rail through one of their nests. We conveniently pause alongside the two main antagonists of the game as they nonchalantly scheme their revenge. This is Raxnit and Bodvar Ribspreader. They've joined forces to build a warp-powered skittergate to overrun the world with their forces of chaos, and, spoiler alert, we aren't going to see them again until it's time to murder them. After conveniently lingering around while these two drop all the exposition we'll need, we carry on along the rails as the skittergate explodes, causing us to fall through the poorly constructed nest, destroying our cage and freeing us. And there you go, game over, we're free and the skittergate is destroyed. Job's a good one. It was short but sweet, so thanks for watching. No, here our job is just in fact getting started. Free from our cage, we find a big hammer to hit things with and start hitting things. We may be free from our cage, but now it's time to make our way out of the nest itself. The prologue doubles as a tutorial, so as we're going along, we're given instructions on how to jump, how to use the different aspects of your kit. It's pretty straightforward. As we progress, we're guided by the telepathic assistance of some kind of magic person known as Alicia. There's a history with the characters, no doubt rolling over from the first game, but honestly, she doesn't really do much, serving as the man in the van, the tin dog, guiding you through the objectives and opening your way out at the end of each mission.
Where do you fit in the picture?
Me? I'm their man in Havana. I'm the technical support. Oh my god, I'm the tin dog.
As we make our way out of the nest, we meet up with the other members of our team, who we'll be able to play as in later missions. So far, we've been playing as Marcus Gruber, a versatile mercenary well suited for the front lines. With his starting mercenary career path, Marcus can hold his own when clearing large swarms of enemies, while also providing the team with crowd control. At level 7, Marcus can take on the Huntsman career, opting for a more ranged approach to fights, with extremely high single target damage and sniping capability, and at level 12 can take on the Foot Knight career, once again getting stuck into the melee but with a much greater focus on crowd control and support at the cost of damage. Marcus's premium class, available to purchase with DLC, is the Grail Knight, a melee career focused on team buffs, staggers and crowd control. The first other character we rescue is Dwarf Ranger Bardin Gorikson. Bardin's base career is the Ranger Veteran. Focusing more on range attacks, the Ranger can hold more ammo, reload quicker, provide additional ammo pickups to teammates, and has abilities that aid in disengaging from the melee. At level 7, Bardin unlocks the Ironbreaker career, a tanky melee class able to reduce and absorb damage and taunt monsters away from teammates. At level 12, Bardin can unlock the Slayer class, forgoing the use of ranged weapons for a melee class that leaps into a mass of enemies to unleash carnage. Bardin's premium career class is the Outcast Engineer, a ranged focus class that uses bombs, guns and gadgets to mow down foes and provide support to the team. Once we reach Bardin to free him, we're introduced to pretty much all of the major mechanics the game will have to offer. Our final task to get Bardin to join us is to first revive him, and then use medical supplies to get him back to full strength. Once he's freed, we head out to find the rest of our friends. We almost immediately come across Corellian, waiting for us in the next room. Corellian is an elven archer with her default career the Waystalker having a heavy focus on ranged DPS, a level 7 career the Handmaiden being a melee class focused on speed and mobility, a level 12 career focusing on stealth and high burst damage, and her premium career the Sister of the Thorn providing crowd control and support. Then we come across Sienna
Fuganesis.
She's a fire-loving badass, a battle mage ready to decimate foes from afar with a powerful area of effect spells, goodness gracious great balls of fire. At level 7, Sienna can focus that Flaming Fury into the Pyromancer career, a single target powerhouse using burning spells to quickly burst down enemies. At level 12, she takes that one step further as the Unchained, a melee focused class that gets up close and personal with groups of foes before unleashing powerful explosions of flame to incinerate them. Sienna's premium career is the Necromancer, forgoing the love of fire to command a small army of undead to ravage her foes. With these three allies in tow, all that's left now is to find ourselves a way out. We kill our way through to an elevator to the ruined city above us, where Alicia has provided us access to the Bridge of Shadows to teleport us away. Waiting for us at the bridge is our last playable hero, and the one that I ended up playing throughout the campaign, Victor Saltspire. As Witch Hunter Captain, Victor is versatile, able to get in and out of a crowd with an ability that knocks back enemies and a proclivity for headshots. Not that I got many. At level 7, Victor can take on the Bounty Hunter class, another range focused class able to shred through multiple enemies with a single shot. At level 12, he's able to pursue the Zealot career, a melee focused class that gets more powerful as it loses health. Victor's premium career is the Warrior Priest of Sigmar, a pure melee class able to do some heavy damage to hordes of enemies while shielding himself and allies with an exploding shield. That's pretty much it, the end of the prologue. It's nothing special, but it does its job well as an introduction to the game, gameplay and mechanics and the dynamics of the characters. All that's left to do now is step into the shield and teleport away, but oh my, why do the faces look like this? Is this a Warhammer thing? Those black eyes, they haunt me.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
Stepping into the portal, we're treated to another cool cinematic. I was really confused by this one when it was first shown. It was really cool, but I didn't get how it tied into where the story would go based on the prologue. The answer was, it didn't. It was the trailer for the Sisters of Thorn DLC. After that, we're given the character select screen to pick a character to wander around the game's hub as we queue up for missions. We get rewarded some weapon skins and are left to explore the hub. From here, we can access basic tutorials, the game's shop, and open our rewards for completing missions and start new ones. Naturally, the first thing we do is check out the shop. The shop is fairly basic, and outside of the career path available for each character, it's pretty much purely cosmetic items. You get a daily reward of in-shop currency called shillings to purchase these cosmetic items. Character careers, DLC missions, and the coolest cosmetic items will require a direct purchase at around £5 to £8 each. At that price, I'm certainly not going to buy them to try out, and the difference in power level between myself and the other players I encountered playing those careers made it difficult to differentiate between pay-to-win classes and those players just being overgeared for the difficulty I was hosting. After checking out the shop and having a little explore around the hub area, it was time to move on to the next mission. Our first full mission in Act 1 is Righteous Stand. Here, we're sent to Helmgart to cause a big loud distraction while Alicia sneaks into the city to find some solid information about the Skittergate. Our goal is to reach the Temple of Sigmar and ring the bells. The first thing we have to do is reach the temple itself. This is easier said than done, as Helmgart has been invaded and overrun by the joint forces of Chaos and the Skiven. In order to get to the temple, we'll fight our way through the dark, narrow streets. It's dark, stormy, and crazy atmospheric, with a deep rumbling of thunder echoing in the background. It's not long before we encounter a common mechanic in Vermintide's missions, as the sound of drums signal an ambush by a large horde of enemies. These were always fun to encounter, pitting you against an impressive number of foes. As we pass through the city's training grounds, we must raise 2 portcullis in order to access the city's walls. Here, we encounter another of the game's main mechanics, an arena event. We must simply survive wave after wave of enemies until the portcullis have been raised and the elevator platform has arrived for us to progress up the walls. Naturally, we kill everything and make our way up to the city battlements, where we face another horde, fight a bile troll on the walls, blast a hole in the garrison tower with a cannon, and carry on fighting our way forward until we reach the temple grounds. We kill another horde, fight our way into the temple and ring the bell, empowering the statue of Sigmar and drawing another large swarm of foes that we must survive against. It's a big fight with a huge number of basic enemies and specials. The fight authentically feels frantic and chaotic, and genuinely gives you the feeling that you're fighting for your life against the innumerable armies of chaos. Once we survive long enough though, the statue of Sigmar rises from the temple floor, revealing a staircase down to a bridge of shadows waiting in the basement for us to escape through. It's pretty good for an opening mission. I actually really enjoyed it. Playing through the first time around is intense, action-packed, and gives a pretty good introduction to combat. Speaking of combat, let's take a moment to discuss that. It's hit and miss for me, to be honest. The ranged combat feels great, shots you take feel impactful, sound great, and they really feel worth the limited ammunition that you have to expend. Some careers can boost the damage and ammo capacity of themselves and others, but you'll always be limited, particularly at later difficulties where resources are more scarce. The melee combat unfortunately doesn't feel as good, and I think that's just a side effect of the design of the game. You're always fighting dozens of foes at once. As a result, your melee attacks feel very light and as though they make very little impact. Melee is simply a case of waving your sword or whatever weapon you have equipped at whatever is in front of you and letting it do its thing. Each swing barely feels like it's hitting anything at all, and doesn't really feel as though it's doing any damage. The intensity of the combat, particularly in moments where you are facing off against large numbers of enemies, does mitigate this feeling somewhat, but the melee combat just lacks the excitement and feel of the ranged combat. Thankfully, everything in the game does come together to make an exciting experience, but the difficulty and level design has a much bigger impact on that level engagement and fun than the melee combat does. So, we've come to the end of the first mission, and we get our first taste of loot. We can open our spoils of war from a table in the centre of our little hub. Each chest will provide 3 items, the quality of which is determined by the difficulty level of the mission it was obtained from. Items looted from chests will be equipment usable by your currently selected character, so there may be some overlap of shared equipment, but not everything will be. Any items you don't equip can be used either to gear up other characters for their use as bots while you aren't grouped with other players, or salvaged to provide materials for crafting and upgrading. As you play levels and increase in difficulty, you'll find yourself opening a lot of crates and salvaging a lot of items. At early levels, it isn't particularly difficult. I played progression as it seems to be intended, so started on the easiest difficulty level and increased the difficulty whenever I stopped gaining power from loot and hit the next difficult minimum criteria. This was roughly every 2 or 3 levels. The loot itself seems to be mostly just the same handful of items with bigger numbers and the occasional rarer unique. Gear would be swapped very frequently. Higher rarity items would be replaced by lower quality gear that was just stronger within a couple of missions, and though the occasionally rare item would reward a new skin, there was never anything more to the gear than just bigger numbers. It's a fine system, and one that is clearly designed around players sticking around and grinding out levels and loot at higher and higher tiers. Honestly, the biggest gripe I had with the loot system is that it's just kind of boring. The gear you wear has no meaning, it's just ways of getting that nebulous character power level to higher and higher numbers. Particularly at early levels, the stats you get from items are pretty meaningless, and the cosmetic differences between items, including the skins you can unlock and purchase from the shop, are basically non-existent. It's minor differences at most. The rest of the missions play out in pretty much the same way as we progress through, the fourth and final mission in each act culminating with a pretty decent boss fight. Missions are roughly 30 minutes apiece, and track which of the 5 characters you have completed them on. I didn't really get much of a cohesive story out of the campaign's 15 levels. Each starts with a short voiceover of context for the mission, but for the most part they feel like loosely associated missions that see you attempt to disrupt Skaven forces before culminating in destroying the Skittergate seen in the prologue. The missions are like this to clearly facilitate constant replays for progression, and individually are decent, but short levels and highly replayable. But it would have been nice to have seen a little more of an actual story, especially as there's no easy way to play through the campaign, as you are returned to your hub after every mission and have to manually select the next mission to undertake. In the next mission, Convocation of Decay, we're informed that Helmgart, the city we just slaughtered an army's worth of Skaven and Chaos warriors in, has fallen, and something fishy is going on at the Chilean hospice. Naturally, we're sent to investigate. At the hospice, we follow a trail of corpses through the sewers below. We come across a small puzzle requiring us to open doors in the correct order to proceed. Every correct button pressed to open the doors spawns a small wave of enemies to fight, and pressing the wrong button allows more and more enemies to join the fight. It's not too difficult to do once you know what you need to do, so we slaughter our way through and continue to follow the trail of corpses further into a cave system. Eventually, we're led to 3 chaos sorcerers, casting a ritual in an attempt to summon a demon. We hang around a poison puddle, killing the forces of chaos until the sorcerers are dead, and scurry off to the Bridge of Shadows to complete the mission. Next up is Hunger in the Dark. Here we're sent to disrupt the production of bile trolls by rot-blood sorcerers in the Dreisdunkel mines, and what better way to do this than using the abundance of black powder found within the mine to create a really big explosion. The mission plays out pretty much the same as the others. We infiltrate the mine, kill a bunch of chaos and Skaven on the way to complete the objective. As always, we must complete an event that sets up the mission's finale. For Hunger in the Dark, the event is to collect kegs of black powder to fill a minecart. Once full, we'll need to stick close by in order to escort it through the mine and up to the Rotblood altar. At the altar, we'll ring the troll's dinner bell, summoning one that will have the option to kill, before proceeding to cross the bridge the troll came from and escape through the Bridge of Shadows, right as the minecart explodes, bringing the mine down with it. And with this, we come to the final chapter of Act 1. Returning to Helmgart, we're tasked with taking down a sorcerer lord known as Burblespew Hailscourge. He's a mean son of a bitch, planning to envelop the city in a plague that will empower the Rotbloods and kill any remaining civilians. Naturally, it's up to us to fight our way through the city and kick his ass. On our return, we initially fight our way to the centre of town, where a lift will be able to help us descend further into the city. We take out a few plague-spewing special enemies before riding the lift down and fighting our way through the Skaven actively ransacking the city. While we're here, we search for signs of Hailscourge, which actually involved little searching and mostly consisted of following the conveniently linear streets of the ravished town until we seemingly stumble across a sorcerer lord in the ruin of his manor, where he monologues briefly before the fight gets started. The fight itself was a pretty enjoyable one. Hailscourge has a decent amount of health, attacks that do a decent amount of damage, and a loss of mobility as he transforms into smaller flies to dart around the small open arena. He'll assault us with smaller swarms of flies that will stun us, waves of poison that will knock us back and do a small bit of damage, and a big attack that sees Hailscourge position himself in the centre of the room to conjure a large poison storm that, if caught in the area, will lift you into the air, preventing you from moving or attacking while ticking away at your health. It's a tough fight with added difficulty from the open area's lack of both space and cover, making attacks particularly troublesome to dodge. It's a lot of fun, and the boss fights are a great way to cap off each act and offer a slightly different style of mission. I'm sure with a group of friends on higher difficulties, Vermintide 2 could be a lot of fun. As an experience that frequently ends up being solo, with a small multiplayer community 7 years after release, my experience felt like I was joining a relic holding on until its inevitable retirement. The game is well made and enjoyable, don't get me wrong, but while its campaign and general gameplay is fun, in its current state it all just feels like going through the motions, especially noticeable when your mission isn't populated by players and you are playing solo, and bots can more than easily make up for the loss of players. What about outside of the campaign? There are some different gameplay modes that add a lot of variety to the missions. Tailored heroic deed missions provide specific rewards for completing the scenario. There's a Twitch streamer mode that allows you to play against your chat as they add positive or negative effects to the missions you're playing, and weekly events. There's just not much to say about these. They're just regular missions with additional modifiers, or as in the case with streamer mode, something that my channel isn't really positioned to test. Chaos Wastes are the most interesting alternate game mode, stripping you back to basic gear and sending you on an expedition, a series of new maps that allow you to choose the types of danger you'll face and the boon, expedition-wide power-ups that you'll be rewarded with. As you traverse these maps, you'll find pilgrim coins, which will allow you to purchase random weapon upgrades and additional boons to bolster your power. Progressing further through an expedition will reward you with greater loot upon success or failure. The Chaos Wastes are a nice alternative to the main missions you'll be replaying, offering a new way to earn loot and a greater sense of progression. Where it's let down most is its seeming unwillingness to let loose with wild power-ups and powerful foes to mow down. The vast majority of boons I encountered were minor incremental increases, the boringly balanced power-ups that games love to toss out, like a 1% power increase for every missing ammo. The power-ups don't carry beyond the expedition you're always currently on, which get in difficulty. So it always makes me wonder why whenever developers create this kind of content, they're often reluctant to embrace letting the player have a good time and feel overpowered or create crazy builds. It's probably a major contributing factor as to why in the time I spent on Chaos Wastes, albeit a much smaller time than spent playing the main game, I only ever saw 2 other players hosting games in the lobby browser. It was honestly an absolute shame, as the potential for crazy powerful builds should have been a heap of fun, but in its limited state with few other players, it just didn't feel worth the time spent. There are also some additional DLC features that are introduced into the game, but I didn't test these because I didn't buy the DLC. So, where does this leave Warhammer Vermintide 2? Why does it find itself so far down on the list of most downloaded games? It's not for its quality, it's well made and there's a lot of fun to be had, particularly with a group of friends. I think it boils down to a few things. Its age, a franchise of niche interest, and its status as a basically dead game in a genre that is oversaturated and perhaps past its prime. All that's left to do now is give it its designation of Diamond in the Rough and wish it luck. Let me know if you've played Warhammer Vermintide 2. Do you think it's a Diamond in the Rough? Did you enjoy it? Do you still play it? Let me know in a comment below. Until next time, why not check out the video YouTube is about to recommend to you, or find me over at smashdrunk.com for more written reviews, TV reviews, and much more.